I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG Podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, welcome to the Happy Jacks RPG Podcast, Season 30, Episode 17. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Jason.
I'm Stork.
I'm Burke.
So, who are you and what makes you famous? You're new.
I am, but I'm old to the podcast.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
being part of it.
One of the first
So
ever.
old.
I
Yeah.
am super old.
So old.
See the gray hair?
Long time listener. Yeah. You didn't have gray hair when you started listening.
That's actually really true. It's funny enough. This month makes 9 years of listening to your podcast. And the reason I know is because of messenger memories or whatever.
Mhm.
But my very first time playing a game, my buddy of mine came up to me and was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." And he's like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds fun." He's like, "Great, you'll GM for us. I'll get a group together."
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Uh,
That's how you find GMs. You
yeah.
just tell them they're GMing.
You
That's
tell 'em.
awesome.
So it was really wild. So then, I went online and looked up for RPG podcasts, and I found Fear the Boot, and I found Happy Jacks, and that was literally it at the time. And I think of Acquisition Incorporated or whatever.
Yeah.
But and so you all taught me how to play RPGs.
Aww.
And so it's actually really a weird full circle thing that I ended up here now. So
That's
it's,
so sweet.
It's actually really cool. Thank you for having me on.
We're
It's been fun.
super excited that you're
Well,
here.
that's our show now because none of us can talk. We're all misty-eyed. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm
You
not
know-
the FN genie anymore.
I've often said, we come to these things. We've been doing this now for 13 years, and we just sort of come in here and we shoot the shit, and but it just goes out in the void, and we don't really know if it's hitting home, and it's.
I've been called the Void before. And I killed Jason.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good job. First time here and you're killing the host already.
I'm good.
Well, if he dies, he can take his place.
Yeah.
What I was
Clever ploy.
what I was worried about was spraying the microphone in which Kimmy would murder me.
Yes.
And I didn't want to die tonight.
Oh, it's got all the foam stuff on it. It's just
It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. And yeah, I mean, 9 years ago, there weren't very many podcasts at all. And now you go RPG and it's just like so many.
Yeah.
But that
9 years ago is when we still made like the top few hour podcasts.
We did that till a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And your podcasts were like 5 hours long.
Yes.
That was I don't know what we were thinking.
The
We didn't
very-
have lives then.
The very first one I listened to, I'm pretty sure was the Malort episode.
Oh boy.
And I had to
Oh.
pull over on the freeway. I was laughing so hard as I was sitting on the
Oh
405.
my gosh.
Driving to San Clemente. It was
At the con.
terrible.
What year would that be? That's before me.
Yeah.
It was like 9 years ago or whatever.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah. Oh,
Probably
man.
a little bit more. 'cause
I seem to remember that.
Where was I, Mom?
Dave was on fire that night.
I don't know. I didn't know you yet.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh man, the Malort. Oh.
Mhm.
Anyway. Oh, there's some memories that are like so cherished, but also like give this like taste in your mouth. You're just like, ugh, every time I think of it. It's hilarious.
If you don't know what Malort is, go look it up. Don't drink it. It's kind of like
You need to drink it.
like
Nope,
the
you don't have
mint
to.
in the bottom of the urinal. If they distill that into alcohol, that's what it would be.
It's
Yeah,
very strange. I feel like
accurate, right?
I don't.
I haven't tried it.
I don't think you should.
I refuse.
Yeah, I don't think you should drink it, but at some point you should taste it so you know you can say you did it and you know
No.
what we're talking about.
No, I'm immune to this phenomenon. They're like, here, this is disgusting. Try it. I am completely impervious, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
As a job as a painter, sometimes paint will just go evil on you because it's full of organics.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it goes, "Does this smell bad?" Oh, yeah. It's like
Nope.
you didn't have to smell it, but every once in a while you run into a Jason out there who goes, "You told me it smelled bad. I'm not smelling it." No, really, no.
Yeah.
You just said, "Does this smell bad?" No.
Or I can do the chemistry room waft. Right? Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. No, there are some people who really like it. Like I've
They're
run into,
liars.
yeah.
Well, there must be enough to have supported it as an industry.
Yes.
Right?
I
It is
think it's-
mass
I think
produced.
it's supposed to be like mixed with other things,
Yes.
like Drambuie or something. You're not really supposed to be chugging it straight. Like
Although-
nobody drinks creme de menthe straight.
Speak for yourself.
I know a lot of young people that do.
Yeah, well,
It's terrible. And TikTok has like a whole thing right now about like people making cocktails with Malort,
Really?
and it is such a joy to watch people in that much pain. Like it's
I haven't logged into TikTok in like 3 weeks. I need to do it
I like.
just to see the Malort.
I could have sworn it just said sick talk, and I kind of like that.
Oh, there's
Better.
100%.
that's a better name for it.
More accurate name. All right. So in today's episode, Michael disagrees with us about GMs taking stuff away. Mike F, a different Mike/Michael in New York, shares a gaming horror story that was partially his fault. And a second-generation Happy Jacks fan shares about JackerCon and has a message for his dad.
And it's probably named Michael.
It's not. But that would have been funny. I didn't realize. So right now I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I like Mike and Michael. And okay.
Everyone is Michael.
Yeah. If you'd like to contribute a question or a topic to the show, email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Announcements. I am still learning. Our friend Wes from 12-Sided Stories / Plate Mail Games is giving me production lessons and audio and things like that. So he's come in to the studio. He's like switched up the levels. And so you might be hearing some sound changes in the next week or two. If you like them, cool. If you don't, let me know if it gets like way quiet or something, or if you're having some other issues. Someone brought to my attention that we're having some issues with the metadata, so I'm cleaning that up. So please let me know. But yes, I am learning all the things that YouTube taught me wrong when I first took over the podcast. So thank you, Wes. We love you. If you haven't, please check out 12-Sided Stories. A bunch of Happy Jacks people are on there anyway. So you should already have been on there. And and Plate Mail Games, does amazing music and sound and stuff for your games, for playing when you're playing D&D or whatever. Also, we need emails. We're running very low on emails. I am very nervous personally. Like,
Because if you don't have emails, that means I'm going to start freeforming.
Yeah, that
and
is-
we don't want that.
but see, you keep threatening that. I'm thinking that's a thing. Like, they want to see that happen. So maybe you should stop saying
What is
that.
the email address, Kimmy?
happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. I mean, happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Did you say happyjacksrpg@gmail.com?
Yes, happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
So easy to remember.
It is.
Email.com?
Or if you want to, like, just go to happyjacks.org and there's a contact form and you can literally just type it in and hit send.
Whoa.
And it'll come the same place. It's amazing, the whole technology
You
thing.
can
That
even
sounds-
just search for Happy Jacks and click on the nearest link, and it will eventually give you an
Yes.
Well, that might not be the one that you wanted.
But questions, stories, like comments, corrections on what we've said, like all these things are fantastic things to send into the email.
Good Discord discussions that you can turn into an email and have the host talk about as well.
Yeah, see, that's my other fear. Like, the Discord's super jumping right now. Like, people are having great discussions, and I'm like, have I made a Discord that has now put us out of a job? Like, are they all having these great discussions and answering their own questions so they don't need us anymore?
We'll just crawl the discussions and pull topics.
Simple topics.
Have a segment this week on Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, emails, please. Pretty please. And I think that's all the announcements.
Okay.
First email.
I'll take that.
Okay.
And actually, I wanted to read this one partly because I don't know if I was in the conversation this Michael is talking about, but I was in one of these conversations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember discussing this. And
We've discussed it twice. And
yeah.
I was on both times.
oh, all right, excellent.
So it's really mostly me.
I
That
say it's your fault then, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now?
Yeah, well, I'll take over this because obviously we can't trust the store.
No. Like I said, I'll start freeforming.
Clearly, I can't choose the one in front of me. Hey!
Wonder.
Exclamation point. Thanks for your show, and please drink a beverage of choice to commend yourselves for being so positive towards GMs and players who recruit the young to our hobby.
Huzzah.
I feel like that we should be doing phrasing with that particular. It's fine. Don't worry.
We recruit.
Yeah, we're fine recruiting the young to our hobby.
While I share many sentiments of the cast, I find disagreement is the correct course to indulge discussion. So I want to disagree with something the whole cast seemed to be in agreement of. A few episodes ago, you all said that a GM, quoting, a GM should never take away the players or characters' stuff. Yeah, the character stuff, not the player. Definitely don't take away your player stuff. I think we're all agreed on that.
All your dice belong to us.
Yeah.
That's actually called stealing. And,
Yes, that's just theft.
And it could get you in trouble on many levels.
Yeah. So, we're talking about player characters and their items or you know, whatever, their accoutrement. And we shouldn't take it away because players would be annoyed.
I don't think I used the word annoyed. I think it was much stronger than annoyed.
I think I did, yeah. And in conclusion, you said that the GM should be mature, quote, and refrain from this activity, and therein lies the source of our many disagreements. Disagreement is healthy, and this is one of those things that's okay to disagree on.
No, it isn't.
First off, the GM doesn't take away the stuff. The verisimilitude of the narrative and actors takes the stuff away from the characters, i.e. not the players. And the GM is beholden to portray the world and the NPCs or monsters as real and believable. Secondly, why should the GM be mature?
That's my favorite. Like,
Yeah.
you're right. Like, God damn, you're right.
Yeah, I'm actually the first part we do disagree, and then we'll talk about it. The second one, like, yeah.
Yeah.
As I've gathered the numbers, the GMs are in demand, and I would relish if more GMs picked and chose their players more carefully. You're allowed to be miffed that your character lost their favorite stuff, but if you're going to sulk, we might need to reevaluate your fit to the group. It might sound harsh, but I bet we've had less frustrated GMs if everyone was careful to avoid players that isn't a fit for the group game style, etc. Yes. I do advocate clear communication, though. I do regularly tell players, the car went through the ice, but as you're the driver, it's not like the car won't be salvaged. I just think it was fitting due to the risk taken, and I look forward to see the character without their vehicle for a little while. Who's to say you can't replace it, if not just temporarily? I feel like this meets the spirit of what we had discussed, Sork. I would also be careful to lop off favorite parts sticks of the characters of new players, but my experience is that it is veteran players that are the most sulky and protective of their idea of the character. Keep up the good work, and I really appreciate all the cool RPG-related songs you treat us podcast listeners to. Slanja, your own Paul Michael, I think is how I read that. Polemic? Hail.
I think he's from Poland.
Yeah.
Okay. P.S. I have not lost a bet or anything to explain my rampant use of the word disagree, but I will not be offended if anyone wants to make a drinking game out of an unvaried use of one's vocabulary.
See, we should have put that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta leave it there.
We
Yeah.
missed that. We
That's
gotta
all
lead with
right.
that.
Next time.
So, one of the things I had mentioned was a campaign in which we all got geared up and everyone put some time into picking their horses, right? And our GM in the first actual session literally murdered our horses.
You're underplaying this. You need to play this up bigger. You actually named your horses.
Yes.
You actually picked the colors for the horses.
Yes.
You had a whole and you bonded literally with this horse, right?
Yes.
Now this became an integral part of.
Because I was led to believe this would fucking matter.
Right.
Right. And if somewhere down the road, the tension, this like desperate situation to help the horse and somehow, maybe, sure, I can wrap my head around that as a like plot device, but it was arbitrary. The horses are dead. What do you do?
Well, clearly you're not a good fit for his game table. I mean, obviously, there's something wrong with you because you're the one that's getting a little annoyed.
Well, and to be fair, I don't think Michael is defending what happened with my horse. But I think there is this, like, Michael's, what was it? What's the word for a caveat? Yes. The caveat here of communication and saying, hey, it looks like your car is in the ice now. You'll probably get it back. You're the driver. We'd understand you have a car. But what you did, put your car in the ice. I never disagreed with that in principle. That happens all the time.
So you want a necromantic horse then? Is that what you brought back? Like, is that what you're asking for?
Maybe. That was, that level of communication I find really critical. But I don't want to dominate the conversation.
No, go right ahead, because you're hitting on all the salient points that I was going to hit on as well. And I understand English is probably not your first language, Michael. If the Pole, he's from Poland, but annoyed isn't really what we said. I mean, because the case of the horse is not uncommon. It could be a sword. It could be a camp follower or NPC. What are they? There's another word for them when they had the people that would carry your stuff around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hirelings, followers.
Camp followers are an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
But you get attached to these things and they become part of your story. And then when they're taken away, it can be it's annoying isn't really the word. It can be traumatizing.
Or just like a fucking waste of time. Right? Like if he had just said, "Oh yeah, hey guys, don't put horses together. Like don't put it on your sheet. We're gonna get to this thing, and then you're not gonna need it." Mm-hmm. There was no reason not to tell us because it wasn't like a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
That we were approaching woods and blink spiders or something came out, murdered the horses, and we couldn't have taken the horses into the woods anyway because it was too dense. Right? Like
you never kill animals. I mean, it's like Kimmy had we were in a traveler game, and Kimmy had a goat, and Dave's character accidentally killed it, but it was terrible. And Kimmy, we had did we have a ceremony?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, in character.
That's really sad.
But the real point I have with this email is that clearly we all shouldn't have been at the table. We are bad players. We didn't make the cut. We clearly it's we weren't fit for the group as he says here. It might sound harsh, but apparently we were taking things way too seriously.
A lot of it is what you expect, though,
yeah.
right? Like that's what that's the whole reason Session Zeros exists and why we tell people what we want to do before the game and we set expectations. We're like, hey, everything you have could be taken away from you.
Right.
If you know that going in,
yes.
And it's not necessarily that things get taken from you, but you need to be clear. And maybe even what gets taken from you. If you're a paladin and they take away your armor and your sword, that, especially in D&D, are actually integral to your power set,
right?
Like doing stuff, you've suddenly made that character not a paladin effective anymore, right? With the caveat, if you say, I'm going to take your stuff away, but you can either get it back or, you might be a chance to get something else.
Right.
Please don't panic, because I have been on games where people have had their stuff taken and they rage quit or commit suicide, or in game character they charge the guardhouse, and you're like,
right,
it was just a sword, dude.
But it's because you're basically kind of taking away their player agency.
Yeah, the place I think I separate from that is if I say, okay, you're going up against this lava monster and your paper sword is very good against everything else, but it might be destroyed in fighting the lava monster. Mm. I feel like then I could say, okay, you rolled a 1, paper sword, lava monster, we're good. We talked about this, and I think then...
But that's a consequence of their actions. I'm talking about the GM taking your stuff. Like, you get conked over the head and you wake up, in the swamp and you don't have any of your stuff.
And I think that's the disconnect. Like, Michael is talking about the GM doesn't take stuff away, situations take it away. Mm-hmm. And I think you and Michael are honestly saying a lot of the same stuff.
I get it in a situation. If you're attacking the lava monster, your sword goes away. If you are walking down the street and someone pickpockets your sword and you didn't have a chance to do anything about it, didn't know it, and then you encounter a lava monster, reach for your sword, and it's not there, that's a dick move.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super shitty.
And that's different, and I don't think Michael is defending that.
But that's, I think, where I was coming from, which is, as a GM, if you start taking your players' stuff away, as a GM taking their stuff away, not in the situation, you're like, you rolled a 1, your sword's going to break. And we've all had that happen, and it can be epic. You remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But all you are is mad at your GM when they take all your stuff for whatever reason. And I use the prison break a lot, and it's a thing. Mm-hmm. You end up in prison, and I had to, last time I was going to attempt this, I tell everybody, like, listen, you guys are going to start from nothing, but you will get a chance to get your stuff back. Please don't,
Yeah.
rage quit or
Although that's when I make a sorcerer or a monk.
right.
Okay, but what
Or a
about the flip
thief who
side
just
of it, right? What about when it works? Like, have you ever had it work like this? Like, I had a game where I was playing with actually Joe Gunn from the Discord,
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
and I was playing a character that couldn't use his legs, but he could when he was in his superpowered suit. Right?
Sure.
And so Joe at one point took away my wheelchair, and so I couldn't move around. And it was a moment in the game.
Well, but Joe, there was a situation where your wheelchair was destroyed or stolen
Well, I mean,
based on choices your character made.
no,
Technically.
but it wasn't based on a lot of stuff my character made. Like, it was but it was a short beat, right?
Oh,
it was
okay.
this short moment of something being taken away from me, being powerless. It was this trope, right? The trope of your powerful thing is taken from you.
Mhm.
And then I was able to play with that for a little while, and then it was given back, right? I was able to get it. I was able to crawl to where it was or whatever it was. Like, there was that option. So I feel like it can be done really well as long as it's not taken to the extreme. Having your sword and armor taken away for 4, sessions or whatever is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But having it taken away for a session or half a session might actually be really cool.
Yeah.
But again, you also got reassurances. You knew it was there. It
Yeah.
wasn't like
And I trusted Joe implicitly.
That's the communication and having that conversation with your players
Yeah.
ahead of time
Yeah.
to say, hey, this is a risk in this situation.
my takeaway from this is, and I still stand by it, which is you're on shaky ground when you do it, and you need to be extra careful when you do it.
Yeah.
And I still stand by that. It can be done, but it can also be done very clumsily and poorly, and you're going to end up jeopardizing your players' faith in you. You're going to you're basically betraying their trust. It can be, it's just rife with pitfalls. You just have to be very careful.
Yeah, I think like to what Verk was saying, like this is one of those situations where secrets at the table doesn't serve you well. So like being straight up front with them, like, hey, you lost this thing, you'll probably get it back in the wild. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Like this is part of the story. Like honestly, tell them that because as a player, they know that they're reassured. They can jump into the role play aspect or the game, or the game aspect of, oh, my magic sword is gone, without like being stressed out as a player. Like, oh my god, my sword is gone. I based my entire character around these
What
stats.
is the fucking point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then like you do get that same like cool story arc that you were going for without the players being stressed out or feeling betrayed or feeling they can't trust you, or other players being like, well, maybe we should always hide our cool stuff when we fight people.
I think when I started role playing, there really the plethora of information that was out there it's out there now. It wasn't out there then, and so we were all just sort of making stuff up, and we were all young and stupid kids. So we ended up playing, and some of us even being vindictive GMs. And it still sticks with me.
Yeah.
And I've run into a couple of cons too, where they're vindictive towards their players in the sense of, oh, well, it's realistic, and you made bad choices, and therefore I'm going to punish you for them. And it really comes off as just like they're power-hungry bastards and being vindictive towards their players. It's because they have control. And that's, I think, the crux of the biscuit for me is that's where the problem lies. And you can work around that. But that, if you're not careful, that's how you as a GM are going to be perceived by your players.
Right. And you as the GM have all the power already. If you
Right.
want to kill the players, you can drop a meteor on them and call it a day. You don't have to do all this stuff. And if you're just taking their stuff away, it's because you can.
Yeah,
And not
right.
because it served the narrative.
Screw these
You know.
players.
Well, and I think a lot of GMs end up defaulting to that when they find out that their game is not balanced correctly.
Mm.
Like their combats and stuff aren't hitting the way they wanted to. I think that, especially in games like D&D and things where like the numbers and the crunches like really matters, you have to really make monsters that really balance out with your players. If your players start getting their power creep too soon, that can really mess with your storyline, especially if you're running like an adventure or something like that that's pre-written and like, hey, these are the monsters they fight. You're like, this is not going to be challenging or exciting.
And that's why a lot of the feats and things I have troubles with. Back in the second edition and first edition, it was the monster manual was just the monster manual. It was just there, and you had different levels of monsters, or you could just take a monster and level it up. But the players didn't really have all these extra magical powers that they could use at any one time. It was all just, this was your set of skills. This is all you had. But what would happen is they would get a weapon, or they would get a bunch of weapons. Like, we've all run into them in WoW with all these whales, and we've all run into the people that just have all the things. and there's nothing that can touch them really, except maybe another player that also has all the things. And it got to the point some GMs would start taking people's stuff away because there was nothing they could throw at them, and there was no easy way to take away their +10 Vorpal sword that crits on a 10.
Right.
Other than a conversation that people can have, which no one wants to have, right? Like saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I gave you a magic sword that should not be a +5. Can we make it a +2 for a little while and see if that works better?"
You gave it to me, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But there are limits to the like adult conversation, the mature conversation with your players. Because even me, like, I would be super annoyed at that.
I think there's limits to the mature people that play games too.
Right, but like,
no mature GMs, that's what he said.
Yeah, we're all,
But see, I think that response is maybe what Michael's critical of like going to the player and saying, "Look, I fucked up. We gotta mod this sword or something," and that player flipping the table, that's the player, right? Like,
yes,
the GM is taking a mature approach to trying to solve something they didn't realize was going to be a problem, and that player table flipping is in the wrong.
yeah, but I can also like understand their feelings. Like,
Sure, feeling bad about it and be like, "Oh man, that's a bummer." Totally understandable.
yeah.
But being sulky and shitty about it is not.
Right. And it also kind of depends. If it's like the person accidentally said, "Oh, it's a +5," and because they read it fast, and then next I meant to say +3. It says +3 here. Like, it's different than I give you this +5 sword. It's amazing and like planned out, and then like later they realize like the math is wrong. There's a little bit of like, which is also one of the reasons I don't play games where I have to fucking do that much math, because I am zero interest in that much math. But so I think, like, if you're gonna play games that have that much like crunch, I don't want to argue about the definition of that, but whatever. Like, be careful about it. If you make mistakes, let people know as soon as possible, and like be upfront about it. Like, I think that is important. Don't make up a bullshit part of the narrative to be like, "Oh, your sword turns to dust when you touch it into the magic fountain." And you're just like, that's super shitty. Just be like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I will buy you a 6-pack of whatever beer you want. I fucked up with your sword. It's really a +2, not a +5.
I would see. It's a flawed example, but I was like, I'm coming up with ways to fix it. It's like the sword had a limited enchantment and starts to wear out, or I would even have it like be a demon or something that just that starts to manifest itself later, because now all of a sudden it'd be more interesting than just taking it away. But it was a flawed example. I came up with it, and I'm
no, but it stands. Like, I get where it's coming from.
And I think you do both of those things. You come up with an in narrative reason for the sword to disappear or change or whatever it is. And then you have the upfront conversation of, "I am bad at math," or whatever it is. You're not bad at math. Everyone's good at math. Everyone can be good at math. I'm a 4th grade teacher. I tell everybody they're good at math. But like, have that like, "Hey, I really screwed up on the stat. I'm really sorry." Again, give them a gift of 6-packs or buy a goat.
I think it's still
A toy goat. She has a toy goat.
I have a wee toy goat.
But we got the goat because of the game.
Yes. Okay. So Dave killed my goat in game, and he felt so bad because he's such a sweetheart. He bought me a little stuffed goat, which I still have all these years later, that like hangs out and watches me make cosplay.
Yeah,
sure.
And now it watches us play games.
Because you've got invested in an aspect of the game,
Really.
I know that's what I'm saying.
We all loved that goat.
And you're not sulky.
And Dave
and
was
you're
like,
not a bad person.
No. Oh man, when he killed that goat, like his face at the table.
How did he kill the goat?
It was like we were playing Traveler, so we were in space, and I had the goat because I was like the like mechanic who was like, I don't know, it was part of my quirkiness. So I had a goat in my like little area, my work area, and he was our friend, and everybody loved him.
Oh, sounds right.
And like, it was like, I forget what it was, but we were in some sort of fight or battle, and he did something with the ship. It was actually his ship. He owned it because he was like a duke, which in Traveler's a big deal.
Sure.
And like something happened and it like spaced the goat or something. It was like an accident. He did not mean to kill the goat. And like he rolled, and like it was one of the things, and then Stu like got his gleeful evil grin and was like, "The goat is in there." And everyone was just like,
No.
I think you can go back and listen to it. I think it was before. I think it was before. No, is it? before we
The game didn't
started
last very long, because I
Yeah.
seem to remember there was a psychic thing going on, and then and then we all got busy. But it also kind of got out of hand very quickly.
remember. Did it? I don't
Yeah.
remember. I feel like we had that one, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember the thing with the horses. I have no idea where the rest of that story went.
Right?
Yes.
You felt so betrayed at that point.
Yeah.
You were like, F this game, F this GM.
Yeah.
And again, that speaks to the amount of investment that people have with their stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, to sum up, you have to be
There's too
careful
much.
when players. Let me sum up. When player characters get invested in a thing, whether it's a goat or a sword or
Horses.
you as a GM need to be very careful about how you take that thing away from them.
Right.
And I get people will be more understanding if they do it themselves. Like you're riding your horse and you decide you're going to charge the 10 orcs with pikes, knowing full well that your horse might die. That you made that choice.
Right.
But if you as a GM's like you wake up one morning, go out to your horse and it's dead, because I didn't want to deal with it anymore because you guys kept having to feed it and you guys haven't even named it and I just
you
want to
guys
deal
were
with it.
moving too fast.
So I
like,
kill it.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's no. Oh,
One of the things that Michael said is he talked about how if they're going to sulk, we might reevaluate their fit for the group, right? And I think that's true, but also the flip side of that, right? Like if someone's upset about losing something and they're not taking it to the extreme, they're not being sulky or whiny or whatever it is, then they still belong in the group. And maybe you should reevaluate yourself as well. Maybe you're not the right fit for their group.
Yeah.
Right? Just because we think of ourselves as GMs of like, hey, this is my group. This is a very common concept, right? I'm a GM. This is my group. Then maybe you're not the right GM for that group.
Do you know what a segue is? Because that was the perfect
Maybe.
segue.
okay. I know I'm going to ruin it. Sorry. I'm going to push back a little bit. I also think that there needs to be room and understanding for someone to have a bad reaction
Yeah.
and then to make it up later.
I've been hurt in games and probably didn't behave very maturely at the time and later on, I think we all have. We've all had moments where
Not
we're
me.
like,
Yeah. No, I had
Definitely
games
me.
where I was so upset and stressed out that I
Yeah.
just kind of left without talking to anybody.
yeah.
Like legit with my friends, with in Stu's games. Like there have been times where I've acted like a petulant child and been like, "Are we done? Okay, cool," and like bust it out. And like there needs to be room for if someone has a bad reaction to like give them a little time, and then as a friend like check back in and be like, "Hey." If it becomes a pattern of behavior, then that's bullshit, and you should like then reconsider. But give people the grace of like they really liked their goat or their horse or their sword or whatever it is. And I promise I didn't act like that when Dave killed my goat. Dave was like almost crying though. It was sad.
I'm sure he felt bad. Yeah.
He felt so bad. But people do like we do get invested in these things, and like Stork has brought up a lot of times, our bodies don't know the difference when we're acting and role playing. A lot of times, our body has the same kind of hormonal reactions as if it was really happening to us. Not to the extent of like, hey, we're in a space battle, but like we do have that emotional reaction, and it takes a little bit of time sometimes to calm down and like reflect and be like, oh, that wasn't, they didn't mean to do that, or it was an honest mistake. So also, yes, if people are acting like a dick or and table flipping, that's not appropriate, but give people a little bit of time and empathy to be like upset about something that happens in game and then to like make amends and talk to them.
Yeah. Leave room for the group to take a breath, take a break.
Yeah.
Take a bathroom break.
Yeah.
And-
Or
and
even
come back to-
or even leave and be upset and
Yeah.
then come back or like talk, between sessions and like sort it out and then come back.
Role playing can be intense. I remember some fiasco games where at the end of it, I was just drained and we're all sad. And I mean, it's a moving experience,
Yeah.
some of those fiasco games. It's called fiasco, not happy go lucky, have a good time game.
But both times I've played 10 Candles, I ended it. There were tears. I
Yeah.
had tears.
Yeah.
And the second time was worse because I knew it.
Yeah.
Like you go into the game says you're all gonna die. Let's talk about how.
Mm-hmm.
That's the premise of the game.
Yeah.
And in the second game, I got to a point where I thought we were gonna make it,
Oh,
and
you can't do that.
like it was.
See, you're caught up in the moment. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You were
Yeah.
invested in the moment. You were committed to the role, and you get swept up in this thing, and your body doesn't know. Your body's just like,
Right.
oh my god.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
The most fun we have in playing games is when we get emotionally into it. Right?
Yeah.
There's that great moment when you yell at the table or something like that happens, like you're excited.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's both sides of the same coin.
Yeah, someone wrote in like I have no idea what it was. I have no sense of time, but like about how immersion is the goal. So having that like feeling like you're really in it, that's why we do this. Or at least a lot of us, not everybody. Some people want to just win, but for most people who are in the Happy Jacks like family and community, like this is why we play, is that immersion feeling, and that immersion feeling can sometimes like end up with a bad feeling, a bad reaction, and that can translate to something that you do in real life. And it's just important to leave space for that.
You know, physiological reactions to
Yeah.
imaginary things.
Yeah,
It's-
and you as a player need to be aware of that, and as a GM, you need to be aware of that, and also like everyone else needs to also be like understanding of that and supportive of it.
That's my secret, Kimmy. I win when I'm immersed.
Yes.
Also, I can't tell, are we still talking about RPGs or are we talking about life? Like interacting with people in real life?
Is there a difference?
yeah, right.
They're the same.
I think we're all role playing to some extent
Yeah.
together when we go out in public.
The rules are the same. Yes.
Mailbag 2. Hello, Kimmy and the Happy Jack Squad. Hello. For years, I told the following tale as an RPG horror story. However, I have since come to realize that I was part of the problem and have taken some lessons from the experience. The year was 1990. I was a junior in college. I had co-authored an AD&D tournament module with some of my friends, and we were running it at our college's annual RPG convention. In the module, the PCs were mostly evil-aligned humanoid characters of level 12 to 14. The PCs were agents of the Goblin Lands who were trying to stop a rogue hobgoblin general from reigniting a war with the neighboring human kingdom. A war the goblins were sure to lose, as goblins are wont to do.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
They should lose.
The players were given their pre-generated characters, a map of the area, a one-page adventure background that laid out their mission objectives, sneak into the human city undetected, locate the rogue general before he has a chance to disrupt the trade negotiation talk, and take him out. Stealth was important. The Goblin King didn't want to give the humans any pretense to restart hostilities. For speed, the party was given a pair of war wyverns to fly into the area with instructions not to let the humans catch a glimpse of the wyverns. Which is actually pretty cool because it's like, I'm going to give them these things, but I can't really use them. So you get put some limitations on it right from the get-go. Everybody in the area knew the hobgoblins used wyvern riders as aerial cavalry, and the presence of one could trigger a military response. Again, this was all spelled out in the player handout, and the GMs were also supposed to go over it in-game during a short mission briefing scene. Since this was a convention and was open to the public, I happened to get a table that consisted of players not affiliated with the college gaming group. They were a mix of younger gamers from the local area, mostly high school students. They all seemed very enthusiastic, and when they saw their pre-gens, they were super excited. It was kind of rare in those days to ever play a character that was over level 8. After the briefing, we began to play, and things went downhill immediately. Despite the explicitly covert nature of the mission and the warning by the Goblin King himself not to let the humans see the wyverns, they decided to fly over the city in broad daylight to scout. The city was still on military alert, and this caused the standing army to open fire on them with volleys of arrows and catapults. Both wyverns were injured, so they landed in nearby woods to regroup and figure out what to do next. They then started studying the map. I had been a cartographer, and the map included all of the relevant locations for clues that they were supposed to turn up in the city, but as dungeon dressing, in quotes, I added 2 details just to make the edges of the map more interesting. A Cobalt Layer in the northeastern corner and a swampland of despair in the edge of the map in the south. The swamp was marked with skull and bone symbol. First of all, I'd like to pause right here and say we have done this exact same thing numerous times. Stu has filled out newspapers with rogue articles, and we take them and run with them.
Oh my God.
The first time we played Savage Worlds, we went out and shot a bear because we kind of wanted to do combat and see what it was like. We thought the bear would have been a mutated werebear. We didn't know. It could have been, should have been.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
You totally thought it was like the main storyline.
Well, we were figured, and Stu was so, anyway. So, yes, be wary of just adding extra fluff because that's what we'll gravitate to every time. Mm-hmm. Looking at the map, one of the players pointed to the Cobalt Layer, suggesting, hey, let's ask the kobolds. They might know something. Which isn't a bad thought. Yeah. Kobolds and goblins tend to hang out. I get that. Enthusiastic agreement, despite me asking, are you sure you want to go to the Cobalt Layer instead of the city? Multiple times. They went to the Cobalt Layer. The module had nothing about the Cobalt Layer, but in those days I happened to carry around a copy of Keep of the Borderlands in my gaming bag. It was the intro module that came with the D&D basic set, and it included a Cobalt Layer, so I pulled it out and ran a group of level 12 to 14 characters through a mini dungeon designed for first level characters. I made it a bit of a show out of putting away the tournament adventure, bringing out the Keep of the Borderlands, and they didn't get that hint either. They approached. Nobody checked for traps, and their leader fell into a 10-foot pit trap. This made them decide to just up and murder the kobolds. The players loved this. The level of glee the players had while their high-level PCs slaughtered a bunch of half-hit point monsters was mostly infectious. Almost infectious, and I was seething at the other boneheadedness of these players. But after they killed all the kobolds, they realized they didn't leave any alive for questioning. So they thought about their next steps and looked at the map again. Another player pointed to the swampland of despair and said, "Hey, let's go to the swamp and see what's there." So they did. I opened up my DMG and ran a bunch of random swamp encounters until the tournament clock ran out. At the end of the allotted time, the PCs had just finished fighting a group of Catabolopaz? I don't know what those are. And were looking for treasure, which I was rolling randomly from the treasure tables. The players had a ball. That's in capital letters. They walked out of the room high-fiving each other, and they all asked to keep their character sheets. At the same time, I was silently outraged that they had completely ignored the tournament module that they'd ostensibly signed up to play. I'd co-written the thing after all. I was really proud of it. How dare these rubes not follow the adventure we'd worked so hard to put together? I'm sure I was a bit snippy and snarky during the 4-hour session. I had not signed up to just run a bunch of random encounters from the rulebooks. Needless to say, they scored a 0 in the tournament. Ha ha ha. They honestly seemed surprised that they didn't advance to the next round. For years, I told
that's baffling.
right? But we had a great time. It was great. For years, I told this as an RPG horror story about a group of incredibly dumb players who couldn't start the adventure, and it was literally marked out on the map they were handed. But reflecting on it now, decades later, these players had fun. None of them had probably ever played high-level AD&D characters before, and they were so gleeful about being badasses and having so many high-level powers, they didn't care about the plot of the adventure. They just wanted to roll dice and kill monsters. And the only person in the room who was not having fun was me.
Aww.
I could have embraced what these players wanted and given them a beer and pretzels RPG experience they were clearly looking for, and I joined them in their enthusiasm in playing a high-level game. Instead, I silently seethed and probably came off as a condescending jerk. They had fun, but I didn't. The lesson I learned, that GM's job is to offer plot hooks, but if the PCs don't bite, let them do what they're interested in doing and enjoy the journey that they take you on. Wow. Thanks for listening to my tale, and may your D20s always roll high. Mike F., Ithaca, New York.
Cheers.
Cheers.
First of all, you write a great tale. I really enjoyed reading that. And that takeaway, I'm going to say that again because it's such a great quote. Let them do what they're interested in doing and enjoy the journey they take you on.
Yeah.
I want to put that on a t-shirt
I know.
if I wouldn't get sued by Mike.
It's a seriously great quote. I mean, that's as a GM, when things are really going to let the players take you on the journey.
This is what low prep GMs are. This is the golden ring.
Yeah, this
right?
is
Of like
the improv GM strategy.
trying to go for that experience.
Yeah.
And if anything, I feel like I've strived or striven.
Striven.
Striven for this goal.
You're leading them astray, but
That's all right. Striven's good. I have had to provide structure where I was like, you guys could do anything you want, and they're like,
do something.
well, okay. and so I think that was a big lesson for me personally. But I think first of all, I hope you don't feel too bad because they wouldn't have been having so much fun if they thought you were mad at them.
Yeah.
So they probably really didn't pick up on your seething or your snarkiness. So that's good. Don't beat yourself up about that. Obviously, you're still thinking about it. I would be too, but you don't have to. I think it's okay. But also, I think the fact that they were surprised they didn't move on to a second round is surprising to me.
They wiped out a whole Cobalt Layer. They were stoked. They were like,
Yeah.
clearly we need to go forward.
Okay, I have zero understanding of how tournaments like this work. Like, can anybody explain it for me? Like, I'm my daughter, 2-year-old.
So you have a published adventure,
Yes.
or what locally published adventure, whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's a standard thing that all the different tables are doing the same adventure,
Yes, I know that part.
and there are checkpoints that are worth a certain amount of points, and you score points like a video game. And at the end of it, If you score X number of points, you go on to round 2 and you play part 2 of the adventure, usually.
That's baffling to me. I don't understand how you could like score an RPG, a game RPG on anything but like a rubric, like where you get like certain points for like different categories, like role playing.
Well, that is
and then
how it's scored.
on a rubric. Oh, okay.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it looks like a 4th grade rubric, but it's you know, how many hit points were lost, how many were healed, how much action, you know, how many
Gold you
turns did it
found.
take to win, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it's all based on combat though. there's-
Almost entirely.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
and achieving goals. Like if you manage to get through and not die, or if you manage to get through and nobody and you didn't alert any of the guards.
Got it.
You
Okay.
found secret doors.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be combat, but yeah.
Can you explain to me, like I'm a 2-year-old, what a rubric is?
Okay, so a rubric. I got this. I got a master's degree in this. Basically, it's a tool that teachers use to grade something that can be like based on
Like
opinion.
subjective?
Yeah, subjective.
art?
Like art or an essay most of the time is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you get there's a category, you get a certain number of points for your mechanics in your writing, things about your ideas. Did you cover the topic well? And then there's, so like of the rubric in each column, you can get a certain number of points and then you add that all up to be the total number of points you get it. So it's a way of standardizing something that is subjective.
All right, I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
When did they make the cube for that? The rubric
Cube?
cube. That
Oh,
you use that with the
you're
grading?
fired. Get out.
Look at oh, King, I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm getting an alert that says leave the
He
studio.
thought it was funny.
It was funny.
Okay.
It was horrible, but it was funny.
Unfortunately, chat agrees.
Remember one of the episodes we had years ago, somebody said, what's your number one piece of advice you give people when they're jamming? And we could actually do it again, but the one that I latched onto, which is, and it applies to this, which is be a fan of your players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, because that's kind of what he says here, enjoy the journey that they take you on, and be a fan of your players. I think is the number one thing to remember as a GM, because they're going to make boneheaded things. They're not going to do what you planned.
Yeah.
But be a fan of it. Every boneheaded maneuver they do, every stupid thing they do, that's what the yes and's about. Yes!
Yeah.
And let's go with that.
And that's especially true of convention games. Because convention games, you don't know who's going to sit down. You don't know what they want out of the game most of the time. Like, sometimes at our smaller conventions we go to, like, I'll look at the list, and I know all these people. I know exactly what they'll want in the game. But you get
Kimmy knows
strange...
everyone.
I know everybody. No, I only run like 2 games, and everybody everybody I know signs up for them. But yeah, like you'll get people who have no idea like what kind of game you want to run. They won't even know the system that they're signing up for. Sometimes they have no idea what the flavor is. So one, you need to really specifically like explain that stuff. Obviously, they're in a tournament style thing, so that's like a given already. But you also need to just be ready for them to want a totally different thing than you planned.
It's
And
just,
yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to
no, you're
cut
good.
The weird thing about this, though, is when I go to a con, I expect an adventure to be on the rails a bit. Like, we have a set amount of time, and I know the GM did a lot of prep so that it would go smoothly. I don't try to drive the car off the tracks, right?
Thank you for that.
I try to do what I can within the realm of what we're doing, because I know there's a bunch of people at this table, and we all signed up for this 4-hour block, and I don't want to spike the
And
wheel.
oftentimes 3 of them are all in for the adventure hook, and then the one guy isn't.
Right.
A couple of times at a table.
And so I'm a little split. Like, I think the fact that these were young people who maybe hadn't done this before, and they were super pumped to play these characters. I think it's great that they got you, Michael.
Yeah,
As
I know.
as you were able to freestyle and do this.
You did.
I'm picturing me going, you guys, if you don't go after the general, he is going to launch an attack
Yeah, you're
today.
gonna be like, time out. I don't have any of this prep. Really, you're supposed to be in the city, okay?
Yeah.
Like that's most people would have done that. Instead, you actually just so happen to have a Cobalt keep right here, and they went through and they had, like you just said, they had a ball.
Even if you were ostensibly sassy about it, and they had a great time.
Yeah.
And you know,
And I really laud your honesty with this, because you've come to this conclusion later in life, which is like, oh my God,
yeah,
these guys really enjoyed it. So clearly you were beating yourself up over this for years, only to realize later on that, you know what? They had like one of the best games they've ever played. And now you feel bad that they didn't advance.
Well, I think honestly, like looking back, with some clarity on this situation, I think it was incredibly fortunate
Yeah.
because you got all these people sitting at the table who all wanted the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like they were all friends.
Yeah, well, they were
signed
all
up
friends.
together.
They all signed up together. They all wanted the same thing. So what would have really been terrible is if you'd done this and then you'd signed up for one person who really wanted to win and
Yeah.
get to the next level of the tournament and
Yeah.
had done this a lot. You'd gotten
Yeah.
these people who had no idea. You wanted one person. I don't think you'd actually get a role player in the tournament, but maybe you would. So if you got
Nice, nice.
this group of right? You got this group of players who all wanted very different things out of it, and then like there's no way to please them. Like someone is gonna walk away from that
You got
table disappointed.
One guy
no matter
mad because they're not following the adventure hooks,
Yeah.
even though he tried. And the other guys are like, no, let's go to the Cobalts. He'll be going to
Yeah. Like if you had one loose guy at the table who was there for the tournament, like
Yeah,
well, that would have
that's
been
what
a
I'm
fucking
saying. Yeah.
bummer.
Oh man. Although maybe he would have like herded them in the right direction.
Maybe, yeah.
That's my real question, right?
Yeah.
Is if this was happening to us,
Yeah.
we were at a game, we were running a game, and this happened, what would you do? Would you be like, okay, you're here now, and there's a kobold at the door who's pointing, tells you all the information about the guards at the goblin place, the hobgoblin place, right? To help direct them towards them. But that probably wasn't what these guys wanted.
Yeah,
Like I feel like I would have screwed up
like
these
a note on
high
the door
schools
that
having a
says,
great time.
"Come to the city."
Right.
Find
Yeah.
us there.
I think I would have been stressing there's a timer on this. If you guys don't take out that general, he's gonna launch an attack,
Yeah.
and you were sent to stop that. And
Yeah.
if you don't do that, that attack's gonna happen regardless of what you're doing over here in the woods, right? And I think I would have tried to stress that, and like I don't know if I would have been as flexible as this. Like this is awesome.
It is.
Yeah, it's very good. I think it would depend. Like if I'm running this as a con game versus a home game. Home game, oh, you killed everybody. What do you do now?
Yeah.
I have stuff to run for the next 3 weeks. This is excellent. At a con game, I'm like, oh, it looks like suddenly a little kobold walks into the scene, looks terrified and horrified, and has all the information you need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily railroading. It's like,
Just bringing them
It's a
back on the
carrot,
path.
like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
follow me. I've got a carrot. Follow me this direction, please. I'm like,
There's the signpost up ahead.
Yeah,
You have entered.
yeah, a little bit. It's like it's like one of our first conventions. Like there were like 12 of us hosts there. Everybody got super shit faced except me. I literally was walking the Happy Jacks contingent down the street in LA, and I I lost one of them. I lost Casey and Bruce because they were
Oh,
so drunk they
that's
wandered
two.
off.
That's two
it's two.
people.
But Bruce,
Not really. If you know Casey and
Yeah,
Bruce,
because he was- I was
they're
like-
not. They're
Okay.
really one.
But
It always
also,
comes out as two.
Bruce went to help Casey, so they ended up on a loading dock somewhere, texting us later. I don't know. But everyone else, it was like
Vomit
literally,
was involved.
yeah, it was like literally like walking them from the hotel to the restaurant we decided on. It was like if you've ever seen like kindergartners or first graders in a line,
Yeah.
except old drunk like large D&D
I
players.
resemble that remark.
Yeah. That was like fucking like 13 years ago now. We're way older now.
I remember that.
Ugh.
And you were like, and we're walking.
You were walking.
And we're walking.
Okay, it's a
come with me,
crosswalk now. We've got
Everybody
to walk
hold hands.
a little
We're crossing
faster.
now.
Remember your
A little
buddy.
faster.
It was,
Yeah.
it was. I wasn't with you, but I remember watching it go by. Like, oh, no good can come from this. This was before we moved to the new venue. It was at
Yeah.
the old one. It was at the Sheraton. I think it was.
No,
the
we're at
Sheraton.
the. Aren't we at the Sheraton now?
No,
the
we're at
Radisson.
We're at the Hilton.
Oh, we're at the Hilton now. Yeah, it was the Sheraton.
With the terrible bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
yeah,
open
so
till
that's what I
4.
think of.
Bar doesn't open till 4. I'm still mad.
Yeah. It's literally like
Don't even
herding
drink
cats. Like
anymore,
just,
I'm mad.
you can't really herd them. You have to like cajole them or tempt them in your direction is really the better strategy.
But if
Well,
we would have
you-
done that, these guys wouldn't have had as much fun.
Yeah,
Right? If we would have
absolutely.
held the carrot out, these high schoolers would have
Yeah.
totally
I'm
not
gonna-
been
I
able
think
to
they're
slaughter that.
calling.
I really hope I can remember this quote
I don't
because I really think it's one of the best things I've ever heard.
Do you know what the good news about that is? You have it on a paper in front of you that you can keep.
Good news.
You can put it on your
Good
good news. You can put it on your refrigerator.
Good news. It comes in the suppository.
You said the best advice you ever heard on, like you guys talked about on the show,
Mhm.
and it was always for me was make problems, not solutions.
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me.
Mm.
So like, and I feel like that mixed with this are like the two best pieces.
He
of
says that
advice.
right here. The GM's job is to offer plot hooks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Although a lot of GMs, their plot hook comes with the whole line and sinker of like, if you grab this hook, this is everything that has to happen next.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So,
You're-
I mean, hopefully you can ride that line of,
That's how most modules are written too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's a plot hook. If you don't take it, there's
All right,
literally
throw
nothing.
this book
Yeah.
in the garbage.
Nothing else to do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed that it's very like I've been starting to try and write modules for different games and stuff like that, and it's difficult. Actually, Kurt Potts does a great job of this. He wrote like an adventure recently for Lighthearted. I think it's called One Last Day or One Last Great Day or something like that.
One
Which is-
last good day.
One Last Good Day. That's what it is. It's so well written. It's a emotional, fantastic. If you've played Lighthearted, it's a great thing to check out. But also just looking at how he breaks down the adventure and the options he gives the GM in running it and the players. Like if they do this, this can happen. If they do this, this can happen. So they can like talk their way or fight their way.
Yeah.
There's lots of different options. So it's written almost more like a talent tree or a choose your own adventure book
Yeah.
rather than a module. So I love it and saved it, and I think I'm gonna pattern all my adventures I ever write on that kind of on his format there because
One of the keys to a really good module, and we kind of did it early on. We had our the 1-page adventure, which is something that you can insert anywhere, in any place at any time.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of the early modules, which were a raven, it's a keep up on this place. It's like you have to go to a place in a certain area, and it's stuff, and so they surround. Yeah. It needs to be so flexible that you can drop it in at any time to make it work.
should do it.
WotC has done mixed stuff of that. Some of their stuff has been really good in that. Their others have been terrible, right? So it's all over the place. But learning these things, even adding those to modules, can be so great for people.
Yeah.
But because if you run a module as written, it's hard on you, it's hard on your players. It's a whole thing.
And it's hard not to read all the box text because it's all written. It's nice and it's more eloquent than you can come up with at the spur of the moment.
That's
so you end
what
up
I
attached to the box text.
when I started Shadowrun in 1989. I got the modules and read the box text but right away I was like, oh, that doesn't fit a bunch of other stuff we set up, so I'm just gonna okay, what do you guys do? And I don't think I've run a module since 1994.
And when I used to run them and buy them, part of that was for me learning how to run a game because these guys who designed the game designed these modules, and so it was like a peek into how a game was run.
I would grab them
How
for
did the
all
pros
the
do it?
NPCs, for the NPC
Sure.
cast, and the Shadowrun modules always had, there was a what was it called, usual suspects or something section in the back that had all of the NPCs they had mentioned in the module in a flip, and then I could just use those as a cast of characters anywhere.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah, it was
Started to do
fantastic.
that too with their old modules. In fact, I remember entering Dragon Magazine module collection, and we did the same thing. We made a troll, but it was a snow troll or an ice troll.
Yep.
And so we took a troll and modified it, made it, and then it was an available troll that people could
Yeah.
use if they had people in an icy area. So.
Well, and at some point too, I'd had the revelation, which I guess everybody probably just knew but me, was there had been so many corporate security guards of they all roll 7 to 10 dice. They're just a handful of 7 to 10 dice for everything.
For everything.
In a meat suit.
Yeah.
Me too. Yep. Yep.
It was like I saw the Matrix.
That would be a great name for a module, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Just a stack of,
dice in a meat suit.
a stack of dice.
That's what I want now. I want a little person shaped dice holder
Yeah.
where you shake it and hold it down. Oh, okay, the exact number of dice for that NPC.
Look for it next year, coming from Golden
So
Last Games.
like the boggle roller.
Yeah, exactly. But
You hit the head and
person
it spits
shaped.
out a dice.
Yeah, but that revelation came with not having to stat up every guard and every
Not
NPC
every guard's
ever,
unique.
right? That's fine. Oh, they are unique. Okay, this guy's got 8 dice and the captain's got 10 dice.
Maybe the captain does, but that's fine. But all the rest of them all have 8 dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly the swordsman for Indiana Jones steps out of the crowd. Well, everybody else just had 2 dice. He has 4.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's okay to have that guy, but
Right.
yeah.
But that was a revelation for 14-year-old me of they're just piles of dice.
Oh my! They're all the same. It's the trappings that.
Right.
Oh, I don't. Oh, I've been working way too hard.
Right. And then important NPCs, I also came to oh well, don't put them in a position where they could get killed,
Right.
or
Right.
have to fight.
Right.
That's or when I do, then have numbers ready for them.
I
you know?
remember because I how do I preface this? I was really into comic books. I still kind of am, but really into comic books. And a
Nerd
old
alert.
the old comic trope is that you meet the villain and the villain escapes.
Yeah.
Right. So I tried that maybe once, maybe twice in some games, and they would clobber the villain, and there was no escaping.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, so clearly Doctor Doom doesn't show up and like give it, say his manifesto because they will kill him.
Yeah.
And they will defeat him, and then you won't have an end game anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. That trope doesn't work.
A friend of mine tells the story of, I think, when he was 14 or 15, they were playing Star Wars and met Emperor Palpatine, and one of them was like, I'm gonna try it. And he I think it was the West End D6, stole the guard's pike, threw it like a spear, killed Palpatine in one shot. Like,
it can happen. And all of a sudden you're like, I've completely screwed up the entire Star Wars universe.
Right.
We can't play this game ever again because I don't know what to do anymore.
right.
Yeah.
But the GM had
The prequels haven't come out yet, so I don't have any more source material.
brought them in to be scared and intimidated, and the guy was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Rolled a nat 20, you're like, yeah, that can happen.
Yep.
I've been having to deal with that a lot with Starscape because it's basically designed after like different TV shows. Like
Now,
it can do...
what's Starscape?
Okay. So it's a game I'm designing. It's a PBTA like sci-fi hack, but basically it can be 3 flavors.
Coming from Golden Lasso Games.
Yeah.com. Okay.
Also
Anyway.
maker of Decima.
Oh my god. Okay.
You're really terrible at marketing.
I know. Well, I think everybody knows. Like, I feel like. All right. Anyway, so it can do Star Trek, it can do like Firefly, and it can do like Farscape. Those are kind of the 3 types of games it can play. But like this, like when I first was designing it, it was hard because, those things are so based on scripted TV shows. And those things, it's like you said, they can write in, oh, the villain escapes and lives to fight another day. You can't script stuff in RPGs. So you have to be able to like mimic that vibe, mimic that that type of events, but with total chance and with mechanics that support all of that, but like without being able to script it.
Right.
I'm no mere hedge maid.
Right, exactly. Yep. Oh, I've got a rhino.
Which I named
Which
and
I
am attached to, and don't you kill it.
And Stu did not realize we would use these as battering ram, yeah.
That was his fault. Like 100%. That was his fault. I'm gonna give them rhinos with dynamite on them.
Yeah, those of you who may not know the story, we were playing an Eldemy campaign, a D&D campaign years ago, and we got rhino. I don't remember how we got them. We got them as like mounts. We had rhinoceroses.
You guys are all orcs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We're all orcs, and so an orc wouldn't ride a horse.
Right. So Stu was like, "You guys have rhinos," and we were like, "Yeah." And then we like fight this like really badass mage who was supposed to like just like wreck us and get us to or something, and we're like, "Fucking riding rhinos. These are trained rhinos." And he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "No. If you can train a horse to attack people, like I have like factual data about this."
I
Like
think Tyler was there. Do you believe you call them war rhinos? And
Yes.
a war rhino is different than your just average like herd rhino, and it's a whole like
And, like,
therefore
literally,
they're trained.
like this mage came in, he's like, "I'm no mere hedge mage," like this big like intro speech and stuff, and we just wrecked him in like 4 turns. Like
yeah, he lost the initiative, which
Yeah.
is what the problem was. And so by the time you guys got done clobbering him, there was no more hedge mage.
yeah, he didn't even get a turn. I don't think.
No, you didn't.
Right.
No.
I did not know that was the same story.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did not know the rhino story and the hedge maze story was the
Same
same,
thing,
the
yeah.
same moment in time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
They branched off into like
And Stu's
separate.
like to this day is like, had he gotten his like 5 dice fireball off, you
Yeah.
guys would have been wrecked. He was loaded, ready to go, but I lost the initiative.
It was chef's kiss perfection.
And again, Stu was trying to like depower you guys and get rid of the rhinos and stuff. So this was his solution, was to try to just nuke them.
It was after that. No, he hadn't realized that how powerful
Okay.
the rhinos were, because that was the first like encounter where we were like, I'm sorry, we're riding rhinoceroses, and they're badass. And he was like, oh
shit.
fuck,
What have
like
I done?
like he like literally he like started drawing out the little rhinos on like the 3x5 cards for like the battle map, and it was like he literally was like, son of.
They're huge,
Okay.
right? Huge
They're
creatures.
massive, and
Yeah.
they have like giant horns, and we're also like badass fighter orcs, and it was just like.
Go
yeah.
look at the stats for a rhino in the monster manual. They don't fuck around.
Yeah,
In real life, they're just real dumb. And I don't think you could train them to ride. But It's D&D.
Well, they
so-
have like what 15 feet of like sight in front of them. They're really horrible
Yeah.
on sight,
Yeah.
and they run 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a terrifying like.
Yeah, that's your headlights are pointed too low on a backcountry road.
Yeah. And they're
But you steered them. You don't just let them go. I
No,
mean,
but to train them to be steered is the part that I'm hung up on.
again, they're war rhinos, so they're bred
you,
for
But
their,
hey, your fantasy world had war rhinos. That's fine.
yes.
they're bred for their
Realism is
magical
the
properties.
enemy of
Yeah.
RPGs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Realism is the enemy of RPGs.
I could suspend that disbelief.
Yeah.
My only argument in favor of like maybe these rhinos weren't so great is they are stupid.
I think Stu like pushed back a little bit. We had to like roll for it or something. I have a vague memory of this, and then like we just like wrecked it with our writing skills or whatever.
Just to belabor the point, I think somebody's rhino died or got killed at one point, and you guys were very upset.
I don't remember that part, but it wasn't in that battle for sure.
No, it wasn't that.
But I think maybe later you're right. I feel like it did happen later, and we were very sad about it. But it was like we were orcs, and it like happened in battle, and it was
you guys were like horde WoW orcs too, like the giant orc kind of thing.
Well, no, we actually came up with this cool, like, I'm actually still very proud of, like, the world we came up with the orcs and Eldamy and stuff like that, and it was a very cool campaign.
Was it GURPS game?
No, it was D&D,
Okay.
5e, I think. Yeah, it was
Probably
just,
40.
yeah, it might have been 4e. You're actually right. It was totally 4e. Wow.
So I didn't mean I'm actually. It was
No,
just
no,
like
you're right.
timeline-wise.
Timeline-wise, you're totally right. No,
you did
you're right.
actually too.
I did.
Yeah. No, but it was good. But yeah, it was fun, and that was one of the D&D games I like really truly enjoyed. I think because we got to develop a lot of the lore of that world. It was very cool.
And Stu, again, he rolled with it too, and we still talk about this game, and he managed to adapt his game for your war rhinos,
And he let me come up with all the the matriarch thing.
Yeah.
Like we came up with this whole like matriarchal like part of the society, and like a little bit of a content warning for like child loss, but like for women who'd lost, or for women orcs who'd lost a child, like they one of the things they could do was join this like special like battalion. I don't know if battalion's the right word. It's a large group of fighters. Like who were working to like seek the honor that their children would have received in battle in life. So it was kind of like this all women badass fighter thing that I don't know. I had a really great time kind of coming up
Please
with
help
that.
Orchid suffrage.
I mean,
That's cool.
if I can come up with a large group of badass women fighters, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So
You so need to do a superhero game, and I think your super group needs to be the suffragettes.
yes.
There's a whole West Side Story, the suffragettes.
But only if they are
I've lost y'all.
only in an airplane transformer RPG.
Suffragettes, right?
Yeah. All right.
That might be worse than Rubik's Cube. I'm just
I take it with pride.
All right. We got way off topic on that. Thank you so much, Mike. That was a fantastic story. Write in another one.
Yeah.
All right.
Or track down those kids and have them write in the story of the
Yeah.
awesome D&D game they played
Yeah.
20 years ago.
They still talk about.
God, wouldn't you love to hear their
Yes.
side of it?
Yeah.
Like right now,
Oh,
oh,
Yeah.
I
man,
would
that'd be
pay
so
a lot
good.
of money.
They probably
I
had
would-
a great time.
I would
Okay,
pay
well,
ones of dollars to
Yes.
hear that.
But also, Happy Jacks RPG does not support stalking or tracking down people from your past
Yep.
without their permission. Okay, anyway. Mailbag number 3. Okay, this one is a little emotional to feel, so be aware.
Kimmy's not being sarcastic right now.
No, and like I'm honest, yeah. I am sarcastic often. I am not sarcastic in this moment. Hey, I'm Arlo. I played with Kimmy and Alice's Missing One Shot. That was during JackerCon. It was so much fun, and meeting her is great. I just have a small request. See, my dad Greg is a huge fan of the show, and I'm pretty sure he said something about being the one who recommended the map or something. Yes. So, side note, we added a map to happyjacks.org where people in the community from all over the world can add themselves to our map, and this was Greg's suggestion. Well, my dad and I have been going through a bit lately with money and personal things, so I just wanted to do something for him, and I feel like, so I can feel like I can be the son he needs. And I do recommend playing with Kimmy. She's good at what she does. Hee hee. Thank you so much for a great game, and I hope the best for all of you over at the podcast. Before I go, my dad's name is Greg, and I am his son, Scott. If you can tell him that I love him and I'm happy to be his kid, that would be awesome. Thank you. Carla.
That's so sweet.
Isn't it so,
I
very-
couldn't read this email.
Yeah.
I know.
I
Everyone was like, nope, Kimmy, you have to do it. You put it on the thing. You have to read it.
Just that gets me in all the feels.
Yeah.
Arlo, you're a really great kid.
Yeah.
And here's kind of the thing why it hits home for me is my kids have also like taken to RPGs and
Yeah.
gaming and stuff, and it's just sort of neat. I didn't really. It's not like I was the sports dad. Like, you will play D&D, you
Yeah.
will win, and we're taking you to tournaments, and I'm training you, and you're going to be great, and we're going to get Scott. And it would just let them. It was just normalized in the house and let them play, and it's really neat. Now that my oldest daughter has become a very accomplished gamer, and it's just neat to see her enjoyment of the. So Scott, it sounds like you enjoy gaming, and we hope to see more of you.
Yeah, and you did a great job in our Alice is Missing game. You were like a very pivotal character. It was like amazing. It was a very emotional game, and you were awesome. And I just love the fact that like this is something that can kind of develop over generations,
Yeah.
and it's something that generations can do together. And it's also really amazing that like we have now like with Emily and a whole bunch of people like our second generation of Happy Jacks community members, which is weird and also awesome. But yeah, so it's just fantastic. And Allie too. Allie, Stu's daughter, joined her D&D club at school. So she's like
Awesome.
for years of like, no, I don't want to play that, Dad. I don't want to do that.
That's what
I
my
don't-"
dad does.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what my
do
dad
that. I
does.
don't do that old
Like
kid
he
stuff.
yeah, she went and like without telling him joined the D&D club at school and then like came and like told him like, oh yeah, I joined the thing. Do you have any dice I could borrow? Like
And Greg, I got to say, you raised a really great kid.
Yeah.
This is a really neat gesture, and it would kill me if my daughter had done it for me too, like something like this. And I like hear your name, and you're like, oh, my
Yeah.
kid. So you're doing good there.
yes.
It's really great that you get to enjoy this stuff together
Yeah.
and have this kind of relationship. So.
Yeah, I have 2 daughters, and so and a wife. For a while, there were like 6 women in the house, and I couldn't do anything right.
Outnumbered.
It was like me and the cat. He'd come up and meow at me. I'm like, yeah, you too, huh? Stay up here for a while. So it's neat to have a son at this age that you guys can do
Yeah.
stuff with.
Well, and just to have something like this in common with your kid. And even if like it's in like I could see like not wanting to like kids not wanting to play a game with their parents, but just having this hobby in common that you can talk about it and share dice and things like that. Like it's just a great kind of through line and a connection, especially when like they're teenagers. It can sometimes be really hard to connect with teenagers. And by design, by the way, like that's the age where they literally are supposed to start becoming their own person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard. And having something like this where they discover it and it's part of who they are as their own person, but it's still something they have in common with you can be incredibly powerful and really, really
And
important.
it also speaks to the power of RPGs, which is anybody can play them. You can have a table full of a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 45-year-old, and all of them are playing the same game, having the same amount of fun, having the same moments together, and it's great.
Yeah.
Everybody can play it. In fact,
Yep.
in many ways, young kids are better at this because imagination isn't taboo,
Yeah.
and they
They don't hold
just
back.
go with it. Yeah.
It was really interesting. Alice is Missing is, we played it for JackerCon. It is entirely text-based. So it's a role-playing game. It's almost like a LARP. It's very interesting. I have no idea exactly how to describe it, but basically you're given like a scenario where your friend Alice is missing. You're each given a character, and then it's like a 90-minute game exactly. There's like a countdown. If you ever played like
Zork.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a text-based
Not
game.
like Zork.
No. But like if you did like murder mystery boxes,
Mm.
or there was a game that my parents used to play. Like it was like you put on a video and there was like the skull guy. It was like a board game, but like it was a countdown with like
Dungeon Keeper.
Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you would play the next part of it and then do the part of the game and then
And every once in a while, it was just like this soundtrack that played on the TV, and then every once in a while, the Dungeon Keeper would pop out.
I think it was Orson Welles. Or
Yeah,
somebody
something like
famous
that. Yeah, and it scared the shit out of me as a kid. But like that's very similar to what it is. There's like a soundtrack that plays in the background the whole time, and at certain points, like cards are drawn, but you may not know if someone else is drawing a card, and you like are texting with each other because you're all playing teenagers who are trying to find your friend Alice who's missing. And it's fascinating. It was really, really interesting because, like, playing online, to start, we had no idea what the ages of different people were. Like, we were all immersed and we were all like teenagers for that 90 minutes. So it was interesting, kind of like at the end, like I kind of knew who people were, so I had a little bit of a cheat on it. But like at the end, like realizing, oh, some people were teenagers, some people were my age, some people were older, some people were in between. It was really fascinating.
That's really neat.
Yeah, I highly recommend Alice is Missing. I had no idea what it would be like going in, and I kind of was like, I've heard like.
Does she always end up down a rabbit hole? Is that like I mean, it's not Alice is always in the rabbit hole. Is it someone that? Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
She's usually late.
He's just usually like, that's the rabbit.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting design on a role playing game, and it gets very emotional very quickly, and it's very interesting how it works. But playing it with like an actual teenager there, which we kind of figured out later, like was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was very interesting, and I've never played a designed text-based RPG like that before. I've done a bunch of like text-based role playing and like MMOs and in chat rooms and stuff like that. So it was kind of an interesting callback to that. It was very easy to slide into. But yeah, it was fascinating.
Is it
cool.
GM-less?
There's a GM like facilitator.
Okay.
I have no idea. I think you might be able to play it GM-less.
Because I know with like Fiasco, it just everybody takes turns setting up the scene, and then the next people pick it up, and then when you're done, then you set up the scene, you add to the scene, and the other people next to you have to play it. So
kind of, it sort of is like that, but it's text based. So you basically you have a group text with all of you, and then you have individual like text with each person.
Yeah, it's like you're texting on your phone.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
it's more than just. This is the other thing I want to clarify.
Yeah.
It's more than just text based.
No.
It's text based.
Yeah.
like texting based.
Yeah, we did it in Discord, but we made separate rooms for each thing, so it was
that's
like
smart.
Yeah,
that's really.
it was
cool.
a lot easier for typing on the keyboard. But so you have individual conversations going with each character. You have a group conversation, and it's just very interesting. As like, and then as people draw cards, you don't necessarily. I mean, I feel like that almost added to it, because like if you're in person, you see somebody draw a card, you can play it in person. You share phone, you share phone numbers, and you text each other in real life. But playing on Discord, it was even more immersive, I think, because you had no idea somebody drew a card. Like suddenly someone would throw something in, like, "Oh my god, I'm being attacked," or "This is happening. I just found this. Oh hey, like so and so just got arrested. Did you see it on the news?" And like.
It's cool.
Yeah, you didn't see someone draw cards, so you didn't know something like that was coming. So it was very interesting. It was my first time playing that. It's like that. And one of the most important pieces, which I was just fascinated by, was there's a soundtrack to it, like the Dungeon Keeper or Dungeon Master, whatever that was. That like slowly, like it plays constantly in the background for the whole 90 minutes, and it works as a countdown. And at certain times is when people draw cards, but it also sets the mood. Like you know how people play like fighting music when you're in a combat in a D&D game or something, which I hate. Spoilers. Yeah, it annoys me because it's like, okay, we're waiting for so-and-so to decide what they're doing. Oh, dun, 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 dun. Can you pick what spell you're going to use, please? Like, but for this, it worked really well because it's very subtle. You almost like don't hear it after a while, but it like starts off very calm and cool, and then slowly gets a little bit more anxious. So it like moves everyone along on the same like emotional wavelength. And as someone who's into music, that was super fascinating to me. And I was just like absolutely amazed by like, this is like such an interesting tool to push people along on a specific narrative emotionally without them necessarily being aware of it.
Yeah.
Kind of the same.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How did you technically do that? Were you all in like a Discord voice channel to hear the music, or did you like send you like links and you just all start at the same time?
Yeah, they just shared it was like a shared screen, and then so the GM like play, it's a YouTube link you go to, and you can, whenever you play Alice is Missing, and you just click on it and it goes, and then so that the GM just shared screen, so we all had it together, so it was the same reference point.
Cool.
So it was interesting, and it was really cool in Discord because there was like a bot that's been written for it, so it like automatically does everything for you. It like sends the right characters the cards at certain points and stuff like that. So it was very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's wild, and it is a role playing game. It's not a tabletop role playing game.
Right, but it almost enters into your real world.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you're texting each other off your phones and stuff, and
Yeah, I would say it's much closer to like a LARP experience
Yeah.
than a tabletop role playing experience, and it's very interesting. And that's the first thing it reminded me of, is this like crazy game my parents used to play, and I used to like sneak when I was little and like look, and they'd put in the VHS tape of the Dungeon Keeper or whatever, and I
I
just
wish
remember,
my parents played games like that.
I just
Right?
remember
That's
being
what I'm thinking. I'm like, we played gin.
Yeah.
My parents would just sit downstairs and get hammered. And get
Yeah.
louder and louder and louder. And
I just remember because I always get caught because I'd be like peeking, and like the way that game works is like, oh, dungeony music, and then he'd like bust out like it was meant to like startle you, and inevitably at some point I'd be like, ah! And like I was like peeking around the hallway, and they'd be like, go to bed. Sorry.
I'm so glad that they were like into that and not like swingers or something. It's like then when you peeked around the corner, like, oh god, you know, it's nice
I
that your
mean-
parents were wholesome.
I
That's
mean,
all I'm
maybe
saying.
they
My
were.
parents got hammered.
Oh, yeah.
We'd have these parties and they would just get drunk.
I mean,
Yeah.
my parents did that too. Like my dad is a drunk, but like maybe they were into swinging, but they were just better at hiding it. Who knows? I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum. Here
No, I know, but it
Just don't let your kids see.
It could be
Yeah.
a lot.
That's a pretty basic
Yeah,
rule.
but-
Or just be honest and be like, hey, we're gonna be doing this. If you don't want to see that, don't come down the hallway. And I feel like by 11, I probably was old enough to make that choice.
Yeah, but you're like 5-year-old kid. You don't.
Oh no. Yeah. I wasn't. I don't think I would have remembered this event if I had been 5. So anyway. All right. So
Cool.
anyway, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Scott, for writing that in. Welcome, second generation Happy Jacker. And we appreciate you. All right. I think that's all. Is that everything?
Yeah, you have to do the outro.
I know that part.
Thank
Just
you for
wanted to
coming,
make sure.
Burke. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
was just super fun. I had a great time.
We're
Really.
so
It was super
glad
fun.
that you're in town and could make it.
It is. It's
Me
neat.
too.
Yes.
I'm very happy it worked out.
And now we get to go hang out and get more drunk. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us for season 30, episode 17. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and our amazing patrons who keep us ad-free and independent, as always. If you want to become a patron, you go to happyjacks.org/patreon, and it will redirect you and show all the cool stuff. And my name is Kimmy, and you can find me here every Friday, and I'm also here on Wednesday nights for Hexbreakers, our Kids on Brooms RPG, which is super weird and really weird.
Shocked face.
Yeah,
And
super.
Emily's a badass GM.
She's
Oh,
amazing.
for sure. Yeah.
She's so good.
Wild. Like we're jumping through realities. It's like the metaverse, and I'm just like, I'm confused. I have no idea how she's got like all these notes. It's amazing. So good.
I'm Jason. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at It's Probably Okay. And on Saturdays at 6 p.m. here on the channel, I'm GMing
Tomorrow.
a fantasy pirates RPG using the quest system. And those are the two genres I'm the least interested in, and I'm having a blast. It's so fun. It was finally time for me to tackle these, two great tastes that taste great together, but I didn't like. And it's really fun.
I admire that. I admire your honesty, and I admire the fact that you decided to just do a game that you thought you were really gonna hate. Like I don't think I'd have the courage. I guess it's time for me to do the game on accounting and math. It sucks. I really don't want to do it. I don't think I have that fortitude.
I knew everybody else likes it, and I had a bunch of players who I knew liked those genres, and I thought I'm gonna figure it out.
You're a great GM. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for them.
Like legit, like every time in like Starscape when we were doing the playtesting, when people were like, let's do like the tall ships in space, Jason was just like, oh,
You made that noise.
like this exact face. This is like he'd do every time, and it's one of the most wanted, requested settings, and every time he's just like, oh. Anyway.
Karma.
But it's working out.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at that. I love that. I'm Stork. I'm not running any games. I'm not in any games, and I don't have any social medias.
There you go.
Finn.
I'm Brooke. You can basically just find me on the Discord, where I am a mod with the other wonderful mods of Erica Odd, Forest, and Jackalope.
Yeah, Bert's the bad mod with all the good mods.
Yes, that's true.
No. Rob is the bad mod.
Oh, Rob's a mod?
Yeah.
You made Rob a mod? Who did that?
Are you sure he's on the Discord?
I see him. He never talks.
No, but come join the Discord, really. Please, come
Yeah,
join
the
us. It's
Discord
really
is
fun.
good times. Even though Rob is sometimes there, it's still really fun.
He's fine. happyjacks.org/Discord, by the way. All right, I think that's all.
Do you guys have any news? Anything? Games?
No,
Stuff?
please send emails.
Oh yeah.
Please send emails. We're getting some people in the chat were also suggesting send in topics. Like we've done in the past some like topic specific episodes like women in gaming, people of color in gaming, things like that. If you have suggestions for things like that, we can also like start working those in. I feel like we have enough episodes in the new studio and stuff now that we can start experimenting a little with like doing special episodes and things like that. So since we have 17 mostly successful episodes, you know,
5 of which you can hear well.
well, a few more than that.
It was sitting there. It was sitting there.
It was.
It sounded much funnier in my head.
It was,
Kimmy knows I'm kidding.
I know you're gonna, yeah. No, there's like 5 that were like, and then they've gotten steadily better since those 5. So, all right, thank you everyone, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I woke up late for work today, had just gone to bed. The bells and drums keep echoing around inside my head. Last night I tied one on, or was it 2 nights ago? It seems I can't remember just how far did I go.
It must have been on Friday night I met the lads around. Shots were lined up on the bar, beers were handed round. Tom was there and Tammy, Tyrone and Dominique. With no special occasion, just the end of the week.
No Jose, no Jaeger, no Jamesons, please. But pour me the Kraken or Sailor Jerry's. Bacardi and Malibu, dark, gold or white. Then pour me in a cab at the end of the night. The sun cracks the window as to slumber I succumb. Time flies when you're having rum. A daiquiri for Dominique, mojitos for Tom. Sammy ordered for herself a refreshing cherry bomb. A hurricane for Tyrone with a splash of peach. And needy and thirsty, I had one of each. No Jose, no Jaeger, no Jamesons, please. But pour me the Kraken or Sailor Jerry's. Bacardi and Malibu, dark, gold or white. Then pour me in a cab at the end of the night. The sun cracks the window as to slumber I succumb. Time flies when you're having rum.
The events of the weekend are mostly a blur, 'cause those who stop when bars close are strictly amateur. Remember a zip line, a mechanical bull, and quickly I ate a sheep, my tongue feels made of wool.
No Jose, no Jaeger, no Jamesons, please. But pour me the Kraken or Sailor Jerry's. Bacardi and Malibu, dark, gold or white. Then pour me in a cab at the end of the night. The sun cracks the window as to slumber I succumb. Time flies when you're having rum.
I stumbled in to punch the clock, the boss man I did see. Asked where I'd been all week and why he shouldn't fire me. I marveled, is it Friday? And he sacked me on the spot. And thus I lost the lousy job to the week that I forgot.
No Jose, no Jaeger, no Jamesons, please. But pour me the Kraken or Sailor Jerry's. Bacardi and Malibu, dark, gold or white. Then pour me in a cab at the end of the night. The sun cracks the window as to slumber I succumb.